to the Genuinely Care About You podcast. I am your host, Christina S. Wilcox, and this podcast talks about everything related to mental health, religious trauma, faith, things I just genuinely enjoy, personal updates. I also want to record some more humorous episodes. I have some guests, hopefully, coming on in the near future, in the springtime. But I am recording this episode right now because I, just like everything, have a really hard time following through. Okay. Here's the thing. I do follow through, but I also don't. And I don't really know how else to word that. Like, I have this looming ghost over me all the time, just like there's probably someone who emailed you or DM'd you 3 months ago that you forgot to respond to. And the hard part about that is it's mostly true, and it usually ends up being true. Sometimes it's anxiety, other times it's just the reality of having ADHD. But anyway, I am recording this episode because there was a gap. It is just, me being able to post an episode once a week, I think just needs to be my goal, as opposed to like Thursday once a week. Even if I don't post it on Thursday, I just need to post an episode and show myself that I can like be consistent with that. However, I will give myself some grace because the past few weeks have been crazy. I feel like a broken record when I talk about this, but the last genuinely year, and I guess almost now year and a half, has just been a lot. There's a lot going on. It seems to be never ending. And I thought I would actually open up a little bit about it because I just convinced myself that it was too messy for the internet, which there are a lot of messy things on the internet. And I think this might be okay to let live on the internet, but some of the situations involve other people in my family, and I think it is important to be respectful about what you share and what you say, so I'm going to do my best to be open without crossing any boundaries. But first of all, I hope you're well. It seems like whenever I do catch-ups on Instagram, a lot of you are doing really well, and a lot of you are also just going through it, and I'm just sending all the love to both groups and the group in between that's just kind of meh. And honestly, meh is pretty good sometimes. But I hope you're well, and I'm glad you're here. I thought I would give a little update to OCD related stuff. I made a post recently on my main account about it, but I started this year with pretty significant OCD symptoms still. The Europe trip we went on, obviously I had pretty crazy experiences with OCD the first couple days, and it's kind of been like a snowball effect ever since that trip. I don't think that trip necessarily triggered anything. Maybe it did, I don't know, but it's just since the trip it's been a lot to handle. Some themes that I haven't struggled with since I was like in high school have resurfaced, which is so frustrating because if you have OCD and you relate, it's like OCD isn't crafty. Like, it's not creative. It is telling me the exact same dumb stuff it has always told me, and it is never not distressing. And that is so frustrating to me that it's not even like OCD is being a little creative now, sprinkling some seasoning on what it's doing to my brain. It is just the same old stuff, and I get so frustrated about that. But that's kind of what has been going on. It got to the point pretty recently where I really could barely leave the house. I have made such significant strides in my driving and my ability to drive. And again, I guess I just took 3 steps back with whatever was going on in my head and with whatever is currently going on in my head. It just was to the point where I needed support again. And when I say support, I'm talking about medication. I have had a wild ride with medication as well. I found out that I have this weird genetic variant that makes me extremely sensitive to a particular enzyme that is in SSRIs, which is most antidepressants that you hear of, like Zoloft, Lexapro, Prozac, all of that. So that's why when I originally was on those medications, I got violently ill, but my brain felt great. And so I kind of took a break from all of those to just honestly give my body rest. I think a lot of my digestive issues and things that I was experiencing are related to that now in hindsight, but I basically got to a point and am at a point where I need support in my brain, because it's hard when you're putting in so much work in therapy and exposure response therapy, and you can't even use the tools that you're learning because your brain just isn't there by itself. There's not even mental space in my brain to allow me to choose a different coping mechanism in certain moments, or to not perform a compulsion, or to whatever. So I started a new medication this week, actually. And so far, so good. What's also frustrating is, I don't know if you've heard about the Adderall shortage. I don't take Adderall, but I take another stimulant for ADHD. And that has also been in shortage. And so I've also been waiting for my medication for 3 weeks. 3 weeks I put in my order. And today at 9 p.m., I'm supposed to get the delivery. So that also hasn't been helpful for my brain. But I started this medication this week, and I also took it with the one ADHD med I had left. And today I'm feeling good. I mean, I'm recording a podcast episode, so hopefully that means that I'm making progress in some way. But it has been really hard. I don't want you guys to see a glimpse of how debilitating it has been, because there's just a lot of shame tied with mental illness still. I don't care what anyone else says. Mental health is celebrated and mental health can be considered in the conversation, but when the realities of mental illness take place, where you can't leave the house, where you're having a panic attack, that you are literally hyperventilating and you cannot get up off the floor, when you are in the actual throat, when you're having crying spells for no reason, when it is just the ugliest version of mental illness, there's still so much shame. Even though especially OCD, it's literally considered to be a disability. And there's still so much stigma tied to it, and tied to whatever, every mental illness, bipolar 2, bipolar, schizophrenia, borderline, all of it. It's just annoying when people revert to, people only use mental illness as an excuse for bad behavior. And I am someone who truly believes that mental illness isn't an excuse to intentionally hurt or manipulate people. You know what I mean? But bad behavior is such an interesting phrase that I want to unpack sometimes, because it's like, what are you describing as bad? Does bad mean lazy? Does bad mean emotional? Does bad mean whatever? Like, if it is bad behavior that is intentionally harming and causing trauma or hurt to other people, that's a different conversation. But when people just say bad behavior, like, what if you're just talking about someone expressing their emotions, someone hyperventilating, like, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's a whole other rant that I could talk about, but it's hard to let you guys in to that part of how I experience OCD specifically. And I don't necessarily think it has to be a public thing. But I guess in me updating you guys, I'm also letting you know that it exists, even if you're not seeing footage or hearing graphic descriptions from me. It's debilitating. And I talk about it still. I'm passionate about it still because it is debilitating. And there's still so much stigma and shame associated with it, like I said. And it's a part of my human experience. I think it's so weird when people tell, like, mental health advocates in general. I've seen it online and I've also experienced it myself of like, when are you going to stop talking about your mental illness? Or like, when are you going to stop talking about ADHD or autism or fill in the blank? And it's like, what? Like, one, especially for people who were diagnosed a lot later in life, like, that's life altering, life changing. It's a big diagnosis. And it just shows, again, it just shows me how much this still is not taken seriously. And that's why I still talk about it, because it deserves to be taken seriously. It just deserves to exist for what it is and not have to mold into something for people that don't have mental illnesses or developmental disorders. It's, you know. But that was what I attempted to be an OCD update. It turned into me intellectualizing my emotions. It's fine. But that's kind of a glimpse and a part of why I've been, even the past year and a half, so yeah. I get a lot of intrusive thoughts even about my platform and how I'm viewed and if I'm going to get canceled, and that can it debilitates me sometimes. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And so I'm trying to expose myself to this even right now. Because that's the only way I'm going to get through it, honestly. But besides that, I've just had some crazy, I was hoping for less intensity this year. And I have not gotten it. Well, that's not true. I think I mentioned this in my story. I have gotten it a little bit with me trying not to be intense all the time. Because, like when intensity follows, when you feel like intensity is following you, it's impossible to ignore the fact of like, maybe I need to look in the mirror, which has been true for me, which it's embarrassing to admit, but I have had to look in the mirror and be like, how am I contributing, enabling, or like allowing intensity into my life? By intense, I just mean like heaviness. And I hate to say the word drama because I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just like, it's intense. You know what I mean? But I've had some weird interactions like in public recently, not with people that know me, but like I got yelled at in the street, which I don't want to explain that whole situation because it really was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. But I got called fat on the street. Like someone yelled at me. So that was, and here's the thing. That's like a dual thing because I was laughing at how dumb it was and weird that it happened to me. But like, I don't think anyone wants to be yelled at in the street about their body. Because I don't believe that fat is a dirty word. I don't believe it's derogatory. I think it's used that way to insult people. And it was more just the fact that there was an angry man yelling at me about my body on the street. Just doesn't need to happen, ever. But it does. And then like a week later, when Noah was on a trip for work, someone tried to break into the house while I was in it at 7:30 a.m. I awoke to a man banging on the door and checking all the doorknobs and trying to get into the house. Which I have an OCD theme about getting robbed or attacked. Like those are just two very random things that happen in life, but I don't understand why they had to happen a week apart from each other. On top of some crazy family stuff going on right now. Like, we're all fine, but are we? There's just some things going on that's just really tough. And on top of that, too, I think that I had mentioned this in 2020 when my dad got surgery for his cancer. My dad has had cancer since I was 14, and it has like reoccurred in a bunch of different ways. But this last surgery he got in like 2020, we really thought that'd be it. It'll be gone. And we found out last week that it is not gone and it's back. And it's just rude. It's a little rude. I'm laughing about it because that's just how I cope. It's how everyone that I grew up with copes. But it really is feeling so personal and rude. And as I'm saying all of it out loud, it's like, duh, I haven't wanted to make content. Duh, I haven't wanted to sit and record a podcast. But I tend to not be compassionate towards myself and just berate myself all the time of like, look at what you could be doing. There's so many people suffering and they're still putting stuff out there and like be shush, you know? But that is my personal update for what has been going on. And I needed that deep breath, and I hope you took a deep breath. And I appreciate you listening. If anything, this has kind of been like a little outlet for me just now to get this all off my chest. But yeah, it's hard to, even in my 9-to-5 job, like I still do marketing and things related to social media, and it's so hard to, just everything. Sometimes it's just hard to exist, and that's okay. It can be hard to exist, and it can be hard to exist while experiencing some really nice, beautiful things at the same time. And that's so difficult for me to understand in my very, very, very black and white brain, where things have to be in categories and labeled for me to feel okay. And there are so many wins still, even as I'm talking about it now. Wins with my OCD, wins with just regulation and emotional regulation in general, and relationship wins, and just feeling... I think the best part about all of this that has happened is I feel such a sense of community. And of course, having OCD is lonely, but I have really pushed myself to share with my community. And it has debunked that myth that I believed for so long, that only one person can share something in a friendship and relationship. Like only one person can be the one to share and communicate and have heavy things going on, or like, you know what I mean? Instead of just like everyone can exist as they are, and I can be heavy and my friend can be light, and we can be light together and heavy at the same time together. Like everything doesn't have to fit in those boxes that I have in my brain for them to be considered good or healthy or safe even. And I think that that has been something that is important to learn. And I am excited to share this episode. It'll be really hard, but I am very excited to share it with you guys, because I know that even when I share these episodes about silly stuff, like, you guys are just the best. I truly feel like I have such a privilege with the corner of the internet that I have landed in. And it feels like you guys are my friends, truly. And I hope one day I can actually meet people. Like I want to see your face. It was so, I realize how privileged this statement sounds, but it was really difficult to release a book in a global pandemic, because I was so looking forward to meeting you guys in person and just talking and laughing and hearing your stories and seeing faces to usernames. Like that's such an important part of this for me, and it always has been. Maybe I just need to prioritize that. I'm going to get thinking about this because I want to figure out what I can do to make this happen. Because it would be so fun. So fun. I think to close the episode, did you hear that? Or was that just, my mic made a very odd sound. Oh, speaking of microphones, I'll start wrapping up the episode with some funny little stories and things that I've been liking recently. But this funny little story happened last night. So I still lead worship and sing at churches. It's a part of my career, kind of, and it was my quote unquote career for a really long time before I got into content creation and social media and mental health and all the other things. But I had to go to a rehearsal last night, and as I was checking my mic, the sound engineer was like, "Hey, can you move your mic back 2 feet?" Because I think that might be what's causing the feedback. It's just we're just testing things out. In my attempt to move this microphone back 2 feet, there's this thing called a P16, and it's basically like this, in-ears. You see people at concerts, they'll have these in their ears, and this is where you can hear the click track or metronome or tracks or other stuff going on. You can hear your voice, you can hear the other instruments, and there's this thing called a P16 that it's like a mini soundboard, and you can control what's going in your ears. And that was mounted on the ground in front of my microphone. I attempt to move this microphone 2 feet back. The P16 shifts off its mount on the ground. And as I go to fix it, my water bottle, which apparently was open, just spills all over the stage and the wires. So there's just water and wires everywhere. And then as some of the people I was around were helping me get paper towels, they went to get paper towels, and I was trying to move the wires out of the water. The entire mic stand falls off the stage. It should not be this difficult to exist in the world. Sometimes. And do you know what's even worse? Oh my gosh. So then I was telling this story to Noah today, or I told it to him last night, and I was thinking about it today because with some of like the medication side effects I've been having as I adjust, I read that clumsiness was one of them. And I was like, maybe that's why all of that happened yesterday. And he just looks at me and he's like, yeah, but is it really that far off to how you usually are? Rude. True. But rude. Rude. Rude and true. Besides this, some things I don't know if I'm going to say that I've been liking it. I've been reading Twilight, and I am going to vlog my experience. I'm determined to. I'm only in like chapter 4 or 5 because I started it and then realized I probably need to create content around this in order to stay sane. But my really close friend Morgan, who you guys have seen, she's my bestie. We do photo shoots together. We actually sing together. We like do a lot of stuff together. It's one of her favorite books. And for my birthday, I asked her to annotate the first copy of Twilight for me so that I could read it and read her notes. If there is a book that you don't know how to get through, but it's a friend of yours, like it's their favorite book, highly recommend doing this. And highly recommend doing this in general. I think I saw a couple booktubers do it with their friends, and I thought it was such a cute idea. And it really is so much fun. Like, I feel like I'm talking to Morgan as I'm writing on the sidelines, because she'll write like, LOL, what is this? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know. It's just so cute. And it makes reading the book so immersive and conversational. And it's been really fun. This book, though, here's the thing. I see why it was such a phenomenon. But wow. We're going to have some stuff to cover. I only knew about Twilight in my sheltered homeschooled upbringing because obviously I heard about Team Edward or Team Jacob. I was Team Jacob, even though I knew nothing about what I was saying. I just liked Taylor Lautner more, I think. Because I didn't even know if they were like a vampire versus a werewolf. I was just like, here are two pictures. Which person am I choosing? And then my eye doctor in high school, every time I got my eyes checked, told me I looked like Bella Swan. And Kristen Stewart is great. That's her name, right? There's someone else with the name Kristen. There's a lot of people with the name Kristen in Hollywood, I think, and I get them all confused. But I don't look like Bella Swan. I just don't. I have brown hair. I'm white. That's about it. But I do not look like Bella Swan. If I do, tag me and let me know. But I really don't think I do. Which that's another thing. I'll end the episode on this. My friends found my celebrity doppelganger, which I've never experienced before. But I shared it on my Instagram story today, so you might have already seen it. But there's this actress in, I think it's The Fabelmans, who looks like 17-year-old me. Like, one, it was kind of a confidence boost to be compared to this person, because I was like, wow, wait, do I like look like that? Whoa. It was very nice. But also, there's this one picture of her from the movie that literally looks like me at 17 or 18, like in that age range. It's crazy. It's crazy. Her name is Chloe East. So if you want to look her up and then look at us side by side, you can. I want to tag her, but I feel like it's so creepy to be like, hey, I don't know. We'll see if I end up doing it, but I think that's where I'm going to leave the episode. Truly no purpose. to what I was saying. No theme, just updates, just fun. And I appreciate you listening and going on this journey of heavy and light with me. I feel a lot better and a lot more clear-headed with maybe the next episode and what I will talk about. And I'm so excited about this podcast. I really am, and it's been so frustrating to be debilitated by something and not be able to do it or not be able to follow through. And so I'm really going to push myself because I'm going to feel better if I do something I enjoy too. But love you all. I hope you take care this week, and I will see you in the next episode.